Thank you for inviting us. I'm Dr. John Bushman, and with me is Dr. Imran Ahmad, and we are with the Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at FIU. Dr. Ahmad, take it away.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Like Dr. Bushman just mentioned, my name is Imran Ahmad. My area of expertise is agriculture and specialization in food science and technology. And I will be introducing to you some of the things that I do here at Chaplain School. And then I will request Dr. Bushman to take over. Just give you a little bit of background that our area is food science, and food science, our main focus is to provide good quality, nutritious food, not just quantity, but in better quality. But it's all started with a number of wars going on back in 18th, 17th century in Europe, when maybe most of you are already aware of Napoleon Bonaparte, one of very famous emperor and conqueror, Victor's son. He asked his countrymen scientists come up with some idea to preserve food in a better quality. And this gentleman that you see on your right, Nicholas Appert, he came up with the idea of preserving food for the troops fighting in the front lines. He used beef or pork and then put it in a container, sealed it, heated it up, and that lasted for like 2-3 years. And that was a revolution in food science or in food industry at that time. People were able to get food because soldiers were dying because of hunger, and if they were getting some food, it was infected, and they were food poisoning, all sort of diseases were prevalent at that time. So that's how it started. He put a 12,000 franc reward for the person who could come up with a new idea. And we call this moment in history as a turning point for the modern food industry that we see today. And till today, is more than 300 years, the main way of preserving food still is the same process of canning. Another turning point that we see in the area of food science is space program. When our rockets were ready, all technology was there, but the problem was, what do we feed them? How do we feed them? They cannot carry fresh foods there, and they cannot stay, the food cannot stay. I mean, didn't even know how the food gonna behave in space. It was a completely new, uncharted place for us, for humans. So our scientists came up with the idea of what about taking a food, freezing it to minus 80 degrees, and then under vacuum, why not we heat it up, and what happens? We got a new process called freeze drying that could remove water and leave only the nutritious part of the food. And as we know it today, and you can see a lot of snack on the market where you can just simply add some water, and the product becomes very close to its original shape. It retains the shape, it retains the nutrition, retains the texture, and that was another revolution that we see. And today we have a bunch of products. You can see this is one of classic example of fruit cake, pineapple fruit cake, and other nutritious bars that they freeze dried, packed, and shipped with the astronauts. Today we have shrimps, today we have noodles, we have ready meals, gourmet meals with some rice and chicken on the top of it, and we have freeze dried the whole thing, and they appear just like a dry powder, but as long as whenever you need it, put some hot water in that and they can come back to its original shape. So that was a revolution. But we, in this conjecture, we see that food is usually perceived as a non-STEM or maybe a restaurant-based industry, but that is not the case. Food and agriculture is very complex science, and it's based on chemistry, physical science, mechanical engineering, all sort of knowledge that humans have acquired, we can apply in food science to get good quality, nutritious food. Like even today, now we are not really running wet labs to get answers that how a new food product gonna behave in our body, we have computer science that can help us, and that field called metabolomics, where we can simulate food molecule in our body, or in vitro or in silico. In silico, I mean in a digital world, we can see what will be the chemical pathways of this food, and it's 80-90% correct. And in the second stage, we can simulate in the real world. So my point here is food science is hardcore science. It is a very multidisciplinary. You need to have knowledge of some of engineering. You need to have a very strong basis in chemistry and physical sciences itself, and mathematics, of course. So what exactly food science is? Food science is a way to bring variety of affordable food in bulk, and the food that should be healthy, safe for the general public. So this is a very bookish definition that our Institute of Food Technologies, which is a US-based organization with more than 45,000 members all over the world, they came up with this definition, which is very broad and general. What do we do as a food scientist? We apply our acquired scientific knowledge of different fields, like I just mentioned earlier, and the objective of all the research that's going on is to have a sustainable way of getting food by minimizing the waste, and making sure that our food supply chain all across the world is viable and there are no disruptions. So that's the basically food scientist job. Like I mentioned, just one skill does not make you a food scientist. You have to have multiple skills and different areas of expertise. So taking you back a little bit, food science, like I mentioned, we have these two turning points in our history that I mentioned earlier, canning and then the flexible pouches and freeze drying that we see today. But food science is not new. Humans have been practicing food science without calling it food science. And if we trace back in 50,000 BC, we have found evidence in caves in Iraq where dwellers, they left seeds of nuts which are so much preserved that even today they were viable. If we can sow them, they were viable. Of course, I don't know, I'm not sure it was actually done or not, but under microscope they were viable. The embryo was still intact. I already mentioned in the other food preservation techniques other than canning, but one of the most important preservation technique that we have is fermentation, and human knew it from centuries. We all know about yogurt. We all know, we call it today probiotics, but ancient time human, they already knew it, how to preserve food. In mountains, they would store food for months to make it available during winter. Fish fermentation is another art that human learned over a period of time. Pickles, that's another fermentation method. Fermented bread, sourdoughs, and I would mention wine as well. But in recent years, what we see, some of very innovative things that human actually never knew about it. One example I would give, I was discussing with Dr. Bushman earlier, gum. How many of you use chewing gum? Maybe nobody knew it. In our ancestors, maybe they were not aware of that. We put something gummy in our mouth and keep chewing on it. It's not very basic thing, because if you can have a chewing gum, you can get a plastic chewing gum, or you can have a biodegradable chewing gum, but that was not the issue. The issue was how to maintain that sugary flavor for a longer time, because if you are chewing it, maybe within 1 second that sugar will be gone. So we came up with a process that would slowly release that flavor, and that's how chewing gum became so popular. And then today, I know chewing gum is still multi-billion-dollar industry, and the issues are, we don't want to use any synthetic color. We don't want to use any artificial, we are not using sugar, we are using artificial sweeteners in that. So there's a lot of research still going on for a product that is not even a nutritious product and is used for a fun. You all are aware of, all Americans love to have this fizzy, bubbly drinks. I mean, we make a joke that if you want to make Americans drink a new type of drink, just put some soda in that. And that's how it is. You can see in front of you, so many food products have necessarily or unnecessarily soda in that. And I know most of you like it. So these are the few things. Now we look at 2020, what we are talking about. We are talking about we have already conquered, we understood we can make food in a dried form and take to space, yes, but that was the learning in 1960s. But what's going on now? We are putting our focus on Mars. Everybody knows, not Mars is in news nowadays, but we are looking at how we can grow food there, how we can have more flexibility for astronauts, because they're going to stay there for a longer time. Maybe we are going to put a human on Mars and we are not sure that person going to come back or not, but honestly, he should have some food, should be able to grow food. So we are working on new varieties of food that can grow with a very low moisture requirement. It can have a longer shelf life beyond what we can see today. We can achieve shelf life of 1-2 years only, but now we are talking about 10 and 20 years. So these are some areas that still challenging food scientists. By the way, I'm just speaking. If you have any question, you can always speak up. What are the innovative areas that
Excuse me.
work with? Sorry.
Just a moment. We're noticing that as you're presenting, the slides are not showing. I chatted in the chat to let you know on our end we're not seeing the slides go to the next. There we go. Yeah.
What do you see right now? Do you see any?
I see a change now. But we were still on slide number 1 with your introduction.
So they were not changing on our full screen. I just put it back to the.
Can you see now? I mean,
yeah, we see how it started.
Right. Okay.
That's
so if I change now, can you see an astronaut here?
I see the next slide.
Okay. So we'll just go up from this format.
So we will not put a display mode
instead of the display mode. That doesn't seem to be working. Okay.
Bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was talking about freeze-dried food. So I showed this slide at that time, and then I made a point on STEM. So that was the slide at that time. I can just repeat this one. Was important. So I talked about the definition of food science. That food science is a way to bring variety of affordable foods and healthy foods to the general public, and that's a agreed upon definition endorsed by the Institute of Food Technologies, which is the professional organization of food scientists. And what food scientists do, they apply a wide range of scientific knowledge from different fields to make the best use of our food resources in a sustainable way by minimizing waste. So basically, you haven't missed much. I can show you this slide, which I was mentioning about the seeds that we found in prehistoric times, and they were still viable. I made a point about chewing gum. So I think we are pretty much okay, right? I can move on. You can see the new screen with a graphic of microwave oven. Can you see our screen now? A new slide?
I see the microwave, yes.
Yeah, so we're not seeing the chat from our screen, so that's why we didn't.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we're just looking at the presentation as it goes.
Okay.
All right. So I continue. What are the innovative areas that we work with? Frozen food is one of the areas which is probably the best way of preserving food close to its fresh form. I already mentioned about canned foods. Recently, this convenience food has changed the whole way the way we eat on the go. So we have frozen food, and we need microwave to heat it up. Now, everybody know that we just get a food, read the instruction, and put it in the oven, and we get a nutritious food. But that's not really easy. As a food scientist, we do a lot of experiments to get food right. it should not be overburned. It should not be undercooked. It can be a food safety hazard. So whenever somebody launch a new product, we need to optimize the rate of freezing and the rate of melting in microwave. So it's itself a huge scientific project whenever we launch a new type of product, because microwave works with moisture available in the food. So every food is not being heated equally. And it's from USDA, it's a safety concern. If there are areas, frozen areas within the food which carry some germs, it can cause you serious illness. Another area of interest, which is still being developed, is snacks. In your school, in our campuses, you will see those machines everywhere to making those on-the-go foods safe, nutritious, and having innovative new type of packaging. That's one area that I work with. We are working on bringing new varieties of food diets that were not even heard of a few years back. I give you example of chia seeds. I can give you example of other ethnic food from South American countries, from Asian countries that were not really part of American diet, but now people are really over the period of time with internet and increased awareness, those foods are being incorporated in American diet. And whenever we bring a new type of food product, there is a good amount of research behind them, because we want to make sure that it's still safe for the different population. Functional food, you might have heard this term. Functional food basically mean a whole food product which is eaten not for the purpose of satisfying our hunger, but to have some additional benefit. So any food that has some medicinal effect is considered functional food. It's a huge market. You can go and buy probiotics off the shelf, but look at the research that goes behind it. People are buying turmeric or dried yogurt product. Those type of functional foods are itself a specialized market, which is not really taken care by pharmaceutical industry, but by food industry. This is one of the, I would say, division within food science called functional food or medicinal food. I want to mention, I want to highlight a few subspecialization. If any one of you like to pursue food science as your career, as your area of expertise, so how it look like? Basically, I already mentioned, is based in food, in chemistry and physical science and microbiology. I mentioned a few of them. There are 52 different divisions or subspecializations. But as an undergrad students, you probably be studying food microbiology, which is the study of microorganisms, both good and bad ones, how they interact with food, how they spoil, how we can avoid them. You might have heard these diseases: salmonellosis, listeriosis. These are the common. Whenever a food is recalled from the shelf, this is basically because of these microorganisms. Another, probably the most common area of expertise is chemistry. So you all know chemistry. We focus more on food chemistry. So there's the macromolecules, proteins, carbs, fats, lipids, how they interact with other food products. And if we are making a new innovative product, how it is going to be streamlined. When it comes to shelf life and preservations, these components like carbohydrates, proteins, fats play a crucial role, or water itself. So these biological components need to study their properties, and we need to optimize them in a food matrix. Nutrition, I think that's the most common. Everybody know about it. It's a common misunderstanding. Usually we think nutrition is more about dietetics, or the doctors talk about nutrition only, but to make those nutritionally optimal food is basically food scientist's job. My own area of expertise is food engineering and processing. Food engineering and processing is basically mechanical engineering, where we design, process, We make machines, equipment that can handle that type of food safely. Another area which is on the consumer side is sensory analysis. Whenever a new food product is launched, we do extensive study to see how it is going to be conceived by general population. So when I say general population, I mean I'm not talking about infants, I'm not talking about elderly population, I'm not talking about people who have vulnerable population. We are talking about general adults, ages 10, 12 to 65 or 70 maybe. So we are talking about how they will perceive our product. So a scientist would conceive it differently, a company would conceive it differently. We might think our product is great, everybody gonna love it, but we can be wrong and terribly fail in the market. So we need to have right data collected from different demographics. Say it's a Hispanic population, their taste buds might be different from Asians, and Asian taste buds might be different from white men. Right? That's correct,
Like
right?
me?
Yeah, thank you. So it is based in statistical sciences. So we come up with the probabilities that what population gonna like this product, and this is a huge science itself. Next slide. Here I just want to show you, I don't know our video will work or not. What are the new, I'll go through first.
Yeah.
What are the new areas are the contemporary current issues that we are dealing with? You might have heard there was a issue from one Asian country. I think it was China, when one guy, he has been already, given his due punishment, but he was to get some easy buck. He was adding a chemical that we use in furniture industry into baby formula, and just to increase its protein content. He was cheating the system. Well, many babies died, and even today we see sometimes there is people water down juices and milk to get some easy money. So this area of concern is called food contamination or adulteration. In 2001, right after 9/11, US Congress passed a new bill called it food defense, that we need to protect our supply chains, that somebody might voluntarily or knowingly introduce some hazard in our food supply chain. So that has developed a new area of expertise, and it's very important in the context that we need to make sure the food is continuously available and it is safe. Just a few weeks, there was a ship stuck in Suez Canal. You can see it caused a huge disruption in supply chain all over the world, and we could see its impact. And that brings us to the point that we should have a local food instead of getting all the food from other countries. So that's also a part of food defense. Food safety, if you guys remember, when the coronavirus started, in one food plant, it was a pork food plant in Minnesota, there were a number of workers died because of coronavirus. And they didn't die because coronavirus infected the food. They were being infected from person to person. And that was because the food safety guards were lowered in that plant. Food safety was not really taken care. So here we also offer food safety programs. If anybody is interested, we can train them on food safety. Cold pasteurization, I think you might have heard this new way of preserving food. When we have a cold press of new fruits and vegetables, not new, I mean fruits and vegetables, without using any thermal processing. Thermal processing means without using any heat, because heat destroys vitamin C and the freshness. So the cold press process used to squeeze out all the nutrients and the juice itself. And then how to make it shelf stable, we use very high pressure to kill bacteria in it without heating it up. So that's a new front we have. We call it cold pasteurization. The new reality of our population, over 7 billion already counted, but I think we are going to have 9 billion in 2050, I guess. To make sure that our new generation get plenty of food, we cannot do it without food science or without it being innovative. That's one challenge. Food fortification, when I say fortification, I simply mean adding more nutrient to existing food. I did a small project for Bill Gates Foundation, and it was one of the Miami-Dade's school district student, my internee, who helped me achieve my goals. We used simple black beans, red and black beans, and we added more iron into it. So if the areas where people like beans, and they don't have access to proteins, for example, or high nutritious food that has iron in it, so how we can feed them more iron, because iron is one of the nutrient that many malnourished people have, they lack in that nutrient. So we added iron directly into beans, and when it was cooked, they got more iron in there. So that's one area, is called food fortification. So some of you might be interested in that area. What are the current movements right now? The one movement, and this is consumer-driven movement, all you guys are driving it, because our new generation don't want to eat too much chemically loaded food products. So now there are more than 102 synthetic chemicals that we are removing from our food diets, and it can be done overnight. We are replacing those chemicals one by one. In 60s and 70s, we have overused this technology. Plant-based movement, a lot of people are turning toward and going away from meats and turning towards plant-based diets. Fat replacer, I have done some research on finding new products. One of them is fig paste. That can be used as a fat replacement instead of using high dense fats. Functional food, I already mentioned. Minimally processed food. Consumers don't want too much processed food nowadays. They want food to be minimally processed, just simply cut, or without going through extensive heating, which is a challenge because we need to make it safe. We need to make it shelf stable, and with minimally processing is not possible. So it's a very narrow balance that we need to maintain. I want to show you this quick 2-minute video. I'm not sure it will work. You can do it again.
Yeah,
but help us. Oh, because it's not in the.
No, it should be click, control, and click it. Click on it. See if it opens. There you go.
So let us know if you can see the video.
Yes, we can see it and hear.
Is it okay now? You can still see it?
The great challenge that food scientists and the world faces today is
See the video, we hear it.
And feeding billions of people. Those are the
Well, you
biggest
don't
challenges.
see it?
Not only feeding, but feeding them the right food, nutritious and healthy food. I think that trying to meet consumer demands for clean labeled eggs and provide them with the shelf life and the price that they've come to expect is going to be a real challenge. That's an opportunity, but it's also a real challenge.
Our biggest challenges are sustainability, looking at managing food waste, and then also feeding people who are food insecure.
Of paramount importance is the development of young scientists.
We are in a world of depleting resources. We need to find new food sources, new applications for food ingredients.
A great challenge that the food industry has today is keeping a clean ingredient line or changing ingredient lines, but yet still maintaining the quality and the food safety that is necessary for great products.
We are the people that take what's coming out of production agriculture, try and maintain the quality of that as much as possible, minimize waste, put those into products that meet nutritional, health, enjoyment needs of consumers.
I need to remind people that food processing is what's going to keep our human lives survivable.
We, the food scientists, can assure that the food we produce is safe for everyone in a growing planet.
I see bright minds, I see people with ideas, I see people who are ready to work.
Can you see PowerPoint again?
I can see the PowerPoint.
Right. So I'm done. Basically, I have one more slide, and then I will hand over to my colleague, Dr. Bushman. Any one of you who are considering pursuing food science, so we have a bunch of options here. My own lab where I work, we call it FABIL Lab, Food Agriculture Bioinnovation Lab. There are immediate opportunities available if somebody want to consider food science internship, so they can contact me. We are launching a new program that we call it Food Innovation and Entrepreneurship Program, which is basically based on food science, but it's not a hardcore food science. We basically want to train our students with the minimum things that are required to be successful in food industry. So there are a few courses, specialized courses, which teaches you all those things. And it's not, like I said, it's not a hardcore scientific program. It's a mix of management, entrepreneurial skills, and some food science skills. So if you complete this course, this degree program, you can be successful in research and development. You can work in production lines. You can even work in food supply chain, or pursue food safety inspection and food safety system designers. We, as a Chaplain School of Hospitality and Tourism Management, our other offerings include restaurant and culinary management major, where students can explore the food service industry. And when I say food service industry, I mean restaurants, catering, and food and beverage events, a lot, even mega events that our school support. One of them is South Beach Wine and Food Festival, which is a national level event. We are I guess, Dr.
Years,
for the last 20 years, there is a mega event on the South Beach. And this year we are, because of COVID, we have postponed it to May, I guess. And I think there's one more video. And after that.
Yeah, so it's the 20th anniversary. I want to show you a little bit here.
My favorite part of coming down to Wine and Food is all the students from FIU, hearing their stories, seeing how inspired they are by me and all my colleagues out there. It's my favorite thing.
It's our mission, it's our goal to really be inclusive. And the only way to do that is to give our students first-hand experience.
So funny because I was actually a student volunteer as well when I was a hospitality undergrad. And I went from handing out water bottles to now today I'm handing cannolis out for the cake boss. So it's really, really great to see that.
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. The most of our students get involved in the festival every year. Normally it's at the end of February. This year it'll be at the end of May. And that's really sort of a big part of our restaurant and culinary management major. We also have events management. We also have spirits management, beverage and spirits. So all of those different students learning in those different areas are contributing to the festival. We have about 1,200 of our students on hand at the festival, all participating, contributing, learning, connecting all along the way. But what Dr. Ahmad asked me to join today was really to talk about another innovation, and I'm sorry for the slides, it's going to show a few lines here and there. But one of the innovations that we came up with years ago, and quite by accident, and our students discover it, is a concept called food rescue. So it's about, I think 2006, about 15 years ago, we had one of those horizontal storms that comes across the Atlantic and hits the beach, and it literally wiped out an event we had ready to go for about 4,000 guests on the beach. That's an awful lot of food that was either just starting to get prepared, or it was on pallets, or it was already moving out of refrigerators, and it was ready to go. And no guests, no chefs. We had to do something. So some of our very alert students got a hold of an event manager, got a hold of a food bank with a truck, and they came and picked it up, and that was the birth of our food rescue effort at the festival. Since then, we've gradually improved it every year, more students involved. We have as many as 75 students involved in the food rescue event effort every year. And we use golf carts, we use all types of different ways to capture and preserve the foods so that it can be enjoyed by people who are hungry. It's another innovation for reducing hunger from the hospitality industry, and especially those big events where there's tons and tons of food and not all of it's going to get used in that particular evening or daytime of the event. So the food rescue effort was born. I'm going to skip a video there, but the food that is recovered then, it goes into a refrigerated truck on the beach, and it goes somewhere around midnight that night over to the Miami Rescue Mission. And there they serve about 1,500 meals a day to the people who live there, as well as homeless people coming in off the streets as guests and getting a nice free hot meal. The picture I'm showing you now, if you can see it, is a pasta dish. This is literally a Friday lunch at the mission after Thursday night's Italian night on the beach. So all of those ingredients are overproduction from the event the night before, and it's serving hundreds and hundreds of hungry people. So we learned that that was a really, really good thing to do, and we've been doing it ever since. You're all aware that we had the Super Bowl here last year, and so there we were also working on the Super Bowl event, recovering all of the leftover food from the tailgate parties, from the catering at the stadium, even from off-site events. And we recovered, I think the total for the week was about 150,000 pounds of food. 150,000 pounds of food. You can imagine how many meals that is and how many hungry mouths that is feeding. So really a very successful event. So this is actually a picture of, that's me on the right with a number of my students carrying off some of the food that was left over from that event. So from this experience of recovering food and learning about that process, they asked me to develop a new course. It's not new anymore, it's almost 10 years old now. But we created a social responsibility course and tailored it really for our hospitality industry. And over the last number of years, we've really learned so much, and we found that we've had a true impact on the community. So I had one of my teaching assistants last year kind of go through the records and see how much we'd actually accomplished. And I was just amazed to find out that we actually served, my students and myself, over 50,000 meals at the different homeless shelters around South Florida. And that we'd actually worked on the movement of over 1 million pounds of food that had been recovered and redistributed to the community through a number of agencies like the Feeding South Florida, the Major Food Bank, Second Harvest, the food bank in Orlando, Farm Share, another food bank down in Homestead, the various shelters, and even we took a group of students out to Las Vegas and actually worked out there as a special field trip. But volunteering at food banks is a great way all of you can contribute to reducing hunger almost any day. I think they're 5 days a week. With 2 different morning and afternoon shifts, you can volunteer over there and really start to make a difference, really start to move some of this recovered food, donated food that's otherwise going to waste, going into landfills. We don't want that to happen. That's bad for our climate and our environment. But get it to the people who need it. And bear with me as I get these slides figured out. So once you've worked at a food bank and you've moved food through the system that way, that food gets delivered to homeless shelters, food pantries, soup kitchens, and these types of agencies. And so volunteering at those agencies is a great experience, because then you're actually face to face with the people who are hungry, or we call them food insecure. So being able to serve a meal to the food insecure that from food that you've recovered working at a festival, or that you've helped distribute from a food bank, is just a wonderful experience. It's really where it all comes together. And I encourage everybody to do that whenever they get a chance. And there's so many other agencies out in the community distributing that food into the neighborhoods. And so we've worked with all of these, my students and I, and even faculty. That's my chef, John Massey there, helping us distribute boxes of fresh fruit and vegetables last year at the height of the COVID pandemic. So community food distributions are another great way to contribute. And there are clubs, there are churches, there are synagogues, there are all sorts of mosques even. We've worked with Dr. Ahmad's mosque on these things too. Sorry for the slide, it's not going to show all of the graphics the way I'd like it to. But I wanted you to know about the level of food insecurity in South Florida, which is pretty high. And these numbers were before COVID hit. We don't have the statistics now, but we know that roughly during COVID, they were just about doubled. We had before COVID about 11.6% of the population, or 700,000 people in South Florida were already experiencing some form of food insecurity. Well, that just about doubled. I think it was 1.3 million at the height of the food insecure pandemic. Children are more likely to suffer food insecurity. They're not out working, they're not out fending for themselves. And if their household doesn't have enough food, then they suffer. So another reason we want to work in all of these various ways to get food to the neighborhoods and to the households where the children can have them. Our federal government, with the Environmental Protection Agency, created this food recovery hierarchy, and I won't go all the way through it, but the first thing that we teach here at school is to reduce waste. Stop, ordering too much, buying too much, wasting too much, wherever, whether it's in your home or restaurant or hotel. Number two is capture the food that's still left over and feed hungry people. It just means moving it quickly and keeping it viable, keeping it at refrigerated or at temperature and covered so that it can be reused. And we've learned that as much as 40% of all the food that's produced in the US coming from the farm to the dinner table does not make it. And so it's a huge amount. If we capture that 40% or even part of that 40% in the process and redirect it, divert it to people in need, we will solve the problem of hunger in America and by extension to the entire world. The numbers are similar. 40% of all food produced in the world does not make it to the dinner table. So if this is done globally, it can happen, but it's going to take a lot of work, and we're hopeful that your generation is getting switched on, getting involved, and start volunteering, and then eventually we hope you'll find a career like we have, doing this every day. I don't know if you've all seen this, the life cycle of the strawberry. I just want to go through this, and then I think we're out of time. But this is probably in one of your classes you've learned about this, beautiful life cycle from seeds to the actual beautiful piece of fruit. And then you can see in this picture how that works. But I like to show my students what happens beyond that. We often don't look at that. Right there. And we'll finish with this video and then take questions.
Okay.
Still beautiful, right into the refrigerator. Now let's watch what happens. Nobody's eating it. Uh-oh. Now it's spoiled. Only one strawberry out of that entire box got consumed. And we're all guilty of that.
So Dr. Bushman, you're saying 40% is wasted.
It's wasted. And we can recover it. We're trying to recover at all, everywhere we can in the process. So I wonder if there are any questions we could answer. I know we're just about out of time.
Are you there? We have.
I'm here, but I don't see any questions posted by the
I don't see any
students.
questions, so
Yeah.
thank you very, very much for your attention, and we hope you learned something.
I'm sure they did. It was a great presentation. I learned something. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. All right. Great. Have a great afternoon. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.